everyone, welcome to the Rabbit Hole Designs YouTube channel. This is Tara with Mayhem Crafty Cards, and today we're going to be making a pretty simple slimline using the newest release from the Rabbit Hole, Christmoose-Moosemas. Now, the card that you guys are seeing is the card that I pre-made, and I kind of like to do this to get a feel of where I'm going to go with the card and what I want to add and not add. So, for the card that I'm making, I used all watercolor paper, and I believe it was the Canson watercolor paper because I didn't want such a bright white for my snowy background. I also used a 8.5 by 3.5 slimline stitch die along with the stitched hillside dies. So like I said, all the paper is watercolor paper except for the moose. Now I did stamp him out on some Bristol Smooth just because I feel like that works best with my zigs. And I am going to go ahead and I'm going to list all of the supplies that I used in the description box below. There's not a whole lot of coloring with this video, just mainly the moose image. And he was super easy to cut with my scan and cut. So the sentiment that we're going to be using is wishing you a Merry Christmas. There are a lot of cute sentiments in this set. Like we have just regular Moosemas, so you could change Christmas for Moosemas. Moose wonderful time of the year. You get some snowflakes, and then you get a little bird with a super cute little hat. Now for the moose's face, I chose to use the brown zig and the light brown. I just wanted to have just a little bit of contrast between those colors, mainly for his antlers, because I do go in with a different color for them. I'm pretty excited to be on the Rabbit Hole Designs YouTube channel. Some of you may know I am on their design team, so I will be doing at least 2 videos a month for them using new products. There's a great new releases coming up along with this one. There was a lot of stamp sets released with this stamp set. So, if you have not checked out the Rabbit Hole Designs, I will make sure I link everything, including their Facebook and Instagram, along with their blog. There's new inspiration pretty much every day from the Rabbit Hole Designs. So for his eyes, the eye part, I guess, I went ahead and used oatmeal. That is probably my most used zig marker in my whole set. I just feel like it's not too much of a skin tone color, but it'll still give a little bit of contrast. For his antlers, I went ahead and just used beige along with my colorless blender. I did not use very many shades with this, just because I can pull it out with that colorless blender. Now halfway through this, I realized that I grabbed my old colorless blender because I couldn't figure out, like, what is going on? Why is this not blending like it normally does? And it's because I grabbed the old one. So I went ahead and put down the beige, and I like to go in circles with my blender pen just so there's not any harsh lines. Sometimes if I try to pull it, you'll see that the lines, you can see like the lines that it leaves. And the blender pen works great. And I love this because his antlers are so big that I really only needed a couple swipes of the marker. Now I do go back in with the beige just because that side is a little, for some reason, it just seemed like there was more area to color. So I left almost all the coloring in, I believe, just because, like I said, there's really the only image that's colored is the moose. Everything else is ink blended. So for his scarf, now I for some reason this is showing super neon on the camera, but it is not. It's just a yellow. And then I also added a bright yellow. And it's funny because that one looks orange. But it's not. Like once you blend it out, it's got that really nice, I guess a deeper yellow. And I'm doing the same thing with that blender pen. I'm just going in and blending those colors out, but making sure I still leave that little bit of contrast. I try to add a little bit of shading where I could. I'm not the best colorist, but I do love using my zigs, and this is just such a great way to color this image. Now you can use Copics, colored pencils, watercolors, pretty much anything. And I believe I did stamp him out with the Ink on Threes blackout ink. I use that anytime I use my zigs. Now for his jacket, in the first card I made, it was like a turquoisey color. So I pulled out, let me grab my marker here. No. Here it is. Turquoise green. Now the other moose I had used Persian green. But I just like that contrast. And like I said, for some reason these are showing up much brighter, much of a brighter color than normal. And this is where I realize I am using the wrong zig blender. But I left it in because, you know, you guys can kind of see how streaky it gets. Now when I'm using my zigs, I really only use my Bristol smooth paper for that. I have the best luck with it. I have used watercolor paper, but I don't know, it just doesn't blend very well for me on watercolor paper unless my paper is like super saturated. So yeah, my camera shut off. So in the middle of coloring him, I just went ahead and finished coloring him. So I went ahead and took my snowbanks, and I only used one distressed oxide. I tried to keep it like super simple, and I used Stormy Sky just to kind of hit the tops of those snowbanks. I just wanted a little bit of contrast, nothing like super blue or super overpowering, because the start of the show is my moose. So I did want to keep it pretty subtle. That's the word I was looking for. Pretty subtle. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked out the rabbit hole, please make sure you do. This channel is going to be a lot more active now than it ever has been before. So we're pretty excited about that. I am more of a YouTuber than a blogger. I still blog, but again, it's it's not my favorite thing to do. So I'm just grabbing that Stormy Sky again and just going along the tops. Now, I don't care that I'm not getting a smooth blend because this is going to be my sky. So I kind of want those, patches of that creamy color, because for some reason, the Canson is not a bright white. I see it more as like a ivory or a cream color. Then once I get all those blended out, I'm going to go ahead and take some white acrylic paint that I have, and I believe I can't find the bottle now. But anyways, so I went ahead and squirted just a little bit of that on a clear acrylic block and grabbed an old paintbrush because I wanted to give the effect of snow on my background without it being, again, overpowering. So I just took that and I just went to town with the splatters. I wanted to make sure I kind of hit almost all the blue areas because you're really not going to see it on those white areas. So once I actually get all of those done, and I'm going to let everything dry before I start adding all my elements, I did go ahead and find these little trees. I came in a Christmas set, and they're not like the traditional Christmas trees, but I wanted to add something to that background. So they're more like little sprigs, little tree sprigs, I guess. But I knew I wanted to add, something to pop off that background a little bit. So I went ahead and I used pine needles to stamp them. Like I said, I used a lot of distress oxides in this. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to place my moose so it wasn't like too much. And I just went ahead and glued everything down with liquid glue. Had I thought about it, I would have popped up that first snowy bank with foam tape. I don't know why I didn't, but now I can kind of see, yes, I should have. And believe it or not, I only used my Misty to stamp the moose. I did not use it for my sentiment. I kind of went old school with the block and, was hoping that it would come out right, and it did. It came out just fine. So don't be scared of your stamping blocks. I know the MISTI is like super convenient, but sometimes you kind of forget to stamp your sentiment before you start adding all your layers. So like I said, I'm just gluing these all down with some art glitter glue. I need to get my hands on some of the I think it's Barely Arts glue. The one that's shaped like a little bear. I really want to try that. So you can see those splatters from that white acrylic paint and just water. I should have put a little bit of shimmer in there, but I didn't. Now this one differs just a little bit from the first card that I made, because I added 2 snowbanks instead of just the one. Because I felt like just the one, it just was kind of like, it just needed a little bit more interest. Now I am going to put little foam squares on the back of my moose. And you'll see before I start peeling off the tape, before I realized that I needed to stamp my sentiment. So like I said, I used Wishing You a Merry Christmas, and I used VersaFine Clair in Twilight because I didn't want the black. I mean, yes, the moose is stamped out in black, but I did not want my sentiment to be, black. I wanted to keep it with that blue theme. So after I realized what I was doing, I went ahead and grabbed my stamping block and my sentiment and lined it up the best I could. It was a little difficult because of the way the snowbanks went, and I wanted to stamp them one on each side of the moose, and then realized like the one section is a little bit shorter than the other, so it kind of looks a little off, but I think it goes very well together. So now I'm going to stamp my sentiment using my clear block, and I was so hoping and praying that it was going to come out, because I hardly ever use that block anymore, just because I shake, and I can't tell you how many times I've thrown stuff away because I go to pick it up and my hand shakes and it just smears the whole thing. So I go ahead and then place my moose down there with those foam squares, and that's when I realized like I should have popped up the one hill in the back, just because it felt a little bit bulkier than what I wanted it to be, and I feel like with the foam it would have not felt as heavy, if that makes sense. So that's it for my card. I'm going to go ahead and throw this on a card base. And that is all for me today. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And again, stay tuned, because there are going to be a lot more videos on this channel. So if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. And until then, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.